I asked for your patience, as it has been some time since I have experienced these circumstances. I have also consumed a considerable amount of caffeine, as I am currently caring for my 3-year-old child. The individual in question was afflicted with a severe cold throughout the night. The initial incident involved a compulsive liar. After a relationship of over 2 years, the individual posted photographs of herself and a male acquaintance she had met after the relationship ended. This incident did not cause significant distress, it merely prompted a shift in perspective. The most distressing incident was the one that occurred after the ex. We had met online and hit it off. I relocated 1,500 miles from my home to be with her. My belongings had just arrived when we were lying on her bed, cuddling and watching TV. She was texting someone, and I was curious, so I glanced at her phone. She was texting the other person she was involved with. AP, he was eager to introduce her to his parents, and she felt similarly. It was an unusual topic for them to discuss while I was present, but I suppose that is how things are. As I was preparing to leave and return to my apartment, I confronted her about it. I confronted her about what I had seen on her phone. She exploded in anger, yelling and shouting about how I had invaded her privacy. I went home and could not sleep. The following morning, I went to her parents' house to talk things out. She was still acting like complete trash, so he then took her to another room for a few minutes, after which she returned, visibly distressed, and began to express contrition and make vague promises. She swore to him that she had severed all contact with the other man and would not see him again. However, it is worth noting that they were classmates in the same nursing program. A nursing program meant that they spent the entire day together. I was unable to ascertain what they were doing or not doing. She did a good job of concealing it, and then, not long after the incident, she informed me that at school he attempted to kiss her and that she had rejected his advances. This meant that she was supposed to stay away from him. However, it would appear that this did not occur. Consequently, her anger began to intensify. It transpired that another classmate from her educational establishment had been involved in an intimate relationship with my ex-partner and was now angry with him. This enraged her further. She expected me to take action, but I was unaware of this individual, as I had never heard of her before. Furthermore, her educational establishment was situated approximately an hour's journey from our place of residence. The situation continued to deteriorate. She became extremely anxious about the possibility of becoming pregnant. She carried multiple pregnancy tests with her and frequently requested that I accompany her to the toilet. She informed me that she might be pregnant after requesting my assistance in transporting her to Planned Parenthood for a scheduled checkup. The appointment, which was initially scheduled to last approximately 1 hour, ended up taking several hours due to her lack of insurance coverage. While I cannot confirm the legitimacy of her claim, I recall becoming increasingly frustrated due to the unexpected length of the appointment. Furthermore, she stated that she was required to reside at her brother's house on a weekly basis due to her assignment at a retirement home that was situated at a considerable distance from our residence. However, I have reservations regarding the veracity of this claim, given that her brother resided in a nearby city. It is noteworthy that the affair partner bears a striking resemblance to me. It is curious to consider how he resembles the version of me without my regular exercise routine. It is interesting to observe that she has a clear preference and yet selected someone below me in terms of in November she requested a drive and disclosed her contemplation of withdrawing from the educational institution where she had encountered the AP. The precise circumstances remain uncertain, but it is postulated that he presented her with an ultimatum, compelling her to choose between him and our relationship. Consequently, I was supportive of her decision to leave, or so I thought. I was unaware that she was still involved with him. She planned to return to the same school I was attending, with the expectation that we would see each other more often. This seemed like a reasonable assumption at the time. However, as time passed, I began to realize that there were some inconsistencies in her behavior. She had dropped out of school again, and her conduct had noticeably deteriorated. She was drinking frequently, and her demeanor had changed significantly. It is possible that her behavior was influenced by feelings of guilt associated with the affair, or perhaps she had initiated a new relationship. However, I am uncertain about the precise circumstances. Subsequently, we relocated to my hometown. It seems likely that she contacted her partner from the affair during this period. I have also been reminded that she flew back to her hometown for a few days to visit her sister. The birthday incident provides a degree of clarity. However, her behavior prior to and following the trip was erratic and hostile. She informed me that she was feigning intimacy or fantasizing about other men. After enduring this for years, I was exhausted. I had no sense of self-worth. Her departure resulted in a significant loss of self-esteem. She drained every ounce of life and vitality from every part of my being. I foolishly decided to join her, and that's when things took a turn for the worse. She secured employment with her brother at a company located just outside of town. I believe she was meeting with her affair partner or someone else during this time. The breaking point for me was when she didn't answer her phone one night and came home hours later. After her work shift ended, she informed me that the custodial staff had not shown up. This was not the first time that I had been subjected to verbal abuse and berating for minor infractions, real or imagined. She also informed me that our children would not learn about my culture, that my father was an immigrant, and that I was expected to sleep on the couch. Additionally, we had not been close for approximately 6 months. On top of these issues, I discovered mysterious stains in my vehicle. This led to the latest round of her behavior. At this point, I came to the realization that I was deserving of better treatment. I mustered the courage to stand up for myself and inform her that I wished to terminate the relationship. This occurred approximately 1 week after Valentine's Day. My brother flew to assist me in leaving the situation. I received a variety of messages from her, ranging from requests for me to return and promises of any kind to explicit threats of vengeance. As I did not maintain contact with her, I was subsequently subjected to further instances of her behavior. She then proceeded to introduce me to the male occupants of our shared apartment and engage in close physical contact with them on the same bed we had previously slept in. Following this, she began discussing a new romantic interest and expressing feelings of romantic attachment towards him. This occurred approximately 2 months after I had departed. One day, while I was engaged in a game of Civilization V, I received a text message from her. She informed me that she had recently become pregnant, having reached the 8-week mark. This was 8 weeks before my birthday. Despite the fact that we were no longer together, she expressed a desire to reconnect with me. I was initially unaware of the news until I received a text message from her. It was a thoughtful gesture on her part to inform me directly rather than posting it on social media. It took me approximately 2 months to ascertain the identity of the father. It transpired that he was the partner with whom she had been having an affair. I am unaware of the fate of the other man, but I imagine it did not end well for him. The declarations of love and the pregnancy occurred very close together. The woman and her partner are still together. She is now married with 2 children. Interestingly, she ended up in the very town she had previously expressed her fear of being stuck in forever. I remember her crying once, worried that when I went back to my parents' house, I would revert back to my old self. It is amusing because I have always been someone who remains faithful, and cutting her out of my life allowed me to grow and become a better person. It is truly remarkable how much my life improved after she was out of the picture. After a few years and numerous new experiences, I met my wife, who is extremely attractive and has a kind and generous nature. She is an excellent wife and mother to our children. If I had remained with my former partner, I would have missed out on meeting my wife, having children, and starting my own successful business, which allows me a great deal of freedom. We are even about to move into our new house next week. My former partner always despised the idea of me pursuing anything or showing ambition. The idea of me pursuing any form of ambition or showing any form of ambition was met with disapproval from my ex. In contrast, my wife was my biggest supporter. I still remember the excitement in my ex's voice when she expressed how happy she was that I gave up on my dream of going to law school. In contrast, my wife encouraged me to pursue it and cheered me on every step of the way. Even though I eventually realized it wasn't for me and dropped out, unlike my ex, my wife embraced new experiences. For example, she encouraged me to go on a honeymoon outside the US. In terms of leisure activities, I have been more successful than my ex. While there may be no polite way to say it, it is nevertheless the truth that my life has improved significantly. It is truly incredible to reflect on how far I have come. I have created wonderful new memories, met amazing people, and my life has taken a complete turnaround in ways that I never imagined. To conclude, I guess things are not going so well. With regard to my former partner, she contacted me a year ago with the ostensible intention of making amends. She expressed regret for the hurtful things she had said and done, and indicated that there was still a place in her heart for me, given that I had been her first love. However, this was not to be, and it is unfortunate that sometimes things simply do not work out. Music. Second story, my wife and I tied the knot. In August 2019, our relationship was not without challenges. We engaged in frequent arguments, yet I never felt that we were at risk of losing each other. Both of us were dealing with our own personal issues. I had been in recovery for over 6 years due to an addiction to adult movies, while my wife was undergoing therapy to address her childhood trauma. I believed that we were on the right path. By August of 2020, our relationship was still experiencing some challenges. However, given that it was our first year of marriage, it was to be expected that there would be some difficulties. Despite this, I believed that we were making progress. However, a few weeks into August, my wife began to withdraw from me. She spent an increasing amount of time with her male colleague. I began to express concern, but each time I attempted to discuss the matter, she reassured me that I was the one struggling with lust, whereas she was never alone with them. She claimed that she simply got along better with guys and that I was the one dealing with my ex-partner. I was initially skeptical, but I eventually convinced myself that she was right. After all, I was the one who was still in contact with my ex-partner. The issue of boundaries was a source of contention. It was evident that she had a different perspective on the matter, as she did not adhere to the same standards of conduct as I did. We had a discussion at the outset of our marriage regarding the importance of maintaining boundaries with individuals of the opposite sex. She acknowledged our agreement, yet she did not perceive it to be applicable to her circumstances. Her struggles were not related to sexual matters, and she expected me to be comfortable with her spending time with male colleagues. Given that all of the workers were Christians employed at a Christian restaurant, it was assumed that there would be no issues. However, in mid-August, an anniversary celebration was held, which involved a group trip. An Airbnb was rented in the Northern Peninsula, and the closest friends were invited, including the man who was later discovered to be having an affair with her during the trip. This led to further suspicions. Despite my concerns, she began to distance herself from me and spend an increasing amount of time alone with this man. The situation reached a crisis point when I returned one night and discovered that they were swimming together in the lake, completely isolated from the rest of the group. Even her other friends were taken aback by her behavior, and they confronted her about it. The final straw came on August 30th, when everything came crashing down. By that time, I had grown increasingly suspicious. Each night, when she returned home, I inquired about her whereabouts and the identity of her companion. I did not believe she was currently engaged in an affair, but I expressed my concern that she was placing herself at risk of doing so by spending so much time alone with another person. It was inevitable that feelings would develop in such close proximity to another individual. On the 30th, as we were departing from the church, she appeared to be distant once more. I decided to inquire directly if she was committed to the marriage. In response, she requested a discussion, which led to her taking me to a park and disclosing the details of the affair. She admitted that the affair had been ongoing since our anniversary and expressed her love for the other individual, indicating that she had no intention of ending their relationship. This occurred approximately 1 month ago. Since that time, there have been a few interactions during which she has been very clear that she does not want to reconcile our marriage. She claims that even if this other man were not in the picture, she would not have sought someone else. My logical mind knows that this is a weak excuse, but deep down I still blame myself. Meanwhile, she continues to see this man openly, expressing her love for him on Instagram and talking to her friends about how I should have fought harder for her. It is worth mentioning that she is a manager at the aforementioned restaurant. I contacted the Christian restaurant and was informed that the individual in question is a recent addition to the staff. It would appear that the restaurant's proprietor is aware of the situation and has chosen to forgive her, effectively sweeping it under the rug and going against their own supposed values. I had not anticipated that I would be facing a divorce, but it seems that the decision has already been made for me. Even if she were to suddenly desire to reconcile, I am uncertain as to my ability to do so. I am currently residing with my parents and the situation is, at times, overwhelming. I have not yet removed the ring, as I am not yet ready to do so. I am aware that she has ceased wearing hers, but I am unable to do the same. There are moments when I feel optimistic about the future. However, there are occasions when even basic tasks appear insurmountable. I am unable to obtain sufficient restorative sleep due to the occurrence of distressing dreams, and I am merely striving to navigate each day. I do possess activities that provide a sense of purpose, and a new position commencing in October will bring a positive change, but that is the extent of my current circumstances. I have an appointment. A meeting with a lawyer is scheduled for Tuesday. According to the legal counsel, the legal process should be relatively straightforward, at least in terms of logistics. Additionally, weekly therapy sessions have resumed. The therapist is a Christian, but not the kind who simply uses religious phrases without reason. He is supportive and incorporates faith. It should be noted that further discussions on this topic may be requested. The restaurant in question is Chick-fil-A. She had previously asserted that their Christian values set them apart from other establishments. However, I recently discovered that she had been informing others that our separation was due to my alleged offensiveness. I consulted with my lawyer, who informed me that this would not have a negative impact unless she filed for a personal protection order and provided substantial evidence. Consequently, I must avoid going to her workplace or contacting her. I contacted the ring back and it was a challenging experience. My lawyer will send her the necessary documents to sign, and if she does not contest anything, we can proceed with scheduling a hearing. However, there is a waiting period of approximately 2 months. I went out with a friend last night and we consumed a considerable amount of alcohol and engaged in sexual activity. It did not progress beyond that point, but I am experiencing a significant sense of shame. My friend asserts that we should not feel guilty because my soon-to-be continued. The former spouse has moved on and the encounter was merely a brief interlude. However, in the eyes of the law, we are still married. I feel as though I have descended to her level and lost some moral ground. I am still committed to my former spouse, even though she is not committed to me. It is as though I am still in the relationship. Despite the fact that she has moved on, my emotional attachment to her remains. Our relationship has effectively terminated, and we are merely awaiting the conclusion of our legal proceedings to formalize the dissolution of our marriage. However, she has been absent for an extended period, and it appears that she is still engaging in sexual relations with the other man. It has been 41 days since the date of separation. It is therefore too soon for me to be involved with anyone else. Was this considered cheating? I do not believe it was. We have broken up and she has moved on to someone else, but I am afraid of becoming a cheater. I am afraid of becoming that kind of person. I tend to dwell on shame and it ends up doing more harm than good. Even when I was single, I did not engage in casual hookups much, so a big part of this is me grappling with going against my own values. My wife had locked herself out of our shared apartment. We were separated and living in different places at the time, but she texted me asking for my key to get in. She said she was using the landlord's copy but needed mine. I have not yet returned it, and I believe this is my way of holding on to something, or perhaps my last act of defiance. It is as if I were giving it back and thereby letting go of the entire relationship. My wife is paranoid, and she has admitted as much. She is terrified that I will break into the apartment. The house she even mentioned buying a tool for protection. I have never been violent towards her. I have never laid a hand on her. I have reassured her many times that I would not resort to violence. However, the idea of her being afraid, even though it is unfounded, makes me feel good. It is as though she knows that I still have access to her house if I really wanted to, and I am choosing to hold on to that knowledge to nurse that feeling. Perhaps I just do not want to completely let her go, or perhaps I am aware that my feelings towards her are irrational, but I felt so powerless throughout the entire relationship that I am unable to rationalize my emotions. As I reflect on the situation, I realize that my feelings are not only irrational but also deeply disturbing. This is evidenced by the length of today's journal entry, which was longer than usual due to the imminent court hearing. Despite my awareness that she is a narcissist and that leaving is the best decision, I find it difficult to accept and cope with this situation. This is my journal entry, written in a spontaneous and unedited manner. I currently occupy a position that is the antithesis of my previous one. The monotony of my current role is compounded by the lack of meaningful tasks to occupy my time. This affords me the opportunity to reflect on my circumstances. During periods of such introspection, I would typically engage in trivial chatter with my wife. This could involve inquiring about her activities, the state of her work, or any noteworthy developments in her life. I have come to realize the value of such mundane interactions and the comforting familiarity of a routine that is characteristic of married life. I had not fully appreciated the extent of my loneliness until I experienced it firsthand. If I were single, there would be only 31 days remaining until the court date, and I would be extremely anxious. I discussed the key with Scott and explained that every action serves a purpose. It is the only thing I have control over, and it is logical. I never had control during the marriage, and I do not have control during the divorce. Giving up the key would mean completely relinquishing control. In truth, I do not want to return home or go to work. I am experiencing significant difficulties and challenges. It is difficult for me to identify sources of enjoyment or positive anticipation. I am uncertain as to whether I will be able to recover from this situation. Scott advised me to reclaim my past experiences and acknowledge my own reality, rather than waiting for external validation. This is the primary reason for writing this letter, to seek acknowledgement from her and obtain permission to embrace my own reality. I tend to deny myself this validation unless it is justified. I am experiencing an emotional roller coaster, trapped in a transparent box of intense emotions. I feel as though I am going crazy, and the silence is difficult to bear, as long as there is something happening every moment of the day. I am able to manage the pain, but when I am not busy, I am left alone with my thoughts and my mind. I despise my own brain. I feel trapped between difficult choices, and I have been delving deep into research. Currently, I have more than 26 peer-reviewed articles on the subject. A review of the literature was conducted on the following topics: narcissism, childhood trauma and infidelity, attachment styles and infidelity, infidelity in the first year of marriage, narcissism and infidelity, and the long-term effects of infidelity. The long-term effects of betrayal trauma, characteristics of cheaters, whether cheaters are hypocritical, and traits of individuals who are more likely to be cheated on, and so on, are just some of the topics I am researching. It is possible that this research will eventually provide insights into these issues. This may turn out to be the most extensive research project I have ever undertaken. It is possible that I may finally be able to comprehend the reasons behind the events that transpired. I intend to analyze our failed marriage in a manner similar to a forensic autopsy. It is important to note that my objective is not to conceal the faults of my former spouse, but to present a compelling argument in my own defense and to demonstrate her role in the dissolution of our marriage. I am currently experiencing a strong emotional response to this situation. At this moment, I am attempting to gain composure in order to examine my own shortcomings more closely. Despite my initial reluctance to admit it, I believe that the primary reason I feel the need to prove my pain is that she has not acknowledged it. In every conversation I have had with her, she has attempted to justify her actions, distort the truth, or rewrite the entire story. To explain it away, to manipulate my perception, to justify her actions, to distort the truth, to shift blame onto others, or to rewrite the entire story, it is as though I have been in lawyer mode, constantly on the witness stand. Despite the fact that we have cut off contact, she is still draining my thoughts like a parasite. I find myself doubting the whole institution of marriage, questioning the values that I have always believed were fundamental truths, and I no longer see the point in waiting until marriage. I no longer see the point in taking that leap. I no longer see the point in risking it all. Maybe I still do, but the potential for failure and the risk involved seem too overwhelming. The institution of marriage is being questioned, and the values that I have always believed to be fundamental truths are being called into question. I no longer see the point in waiting until marriage, nor do I see the point in taking that leap. I no longer see the point in risking it all, although I am unsure whether I still do. The potential for failure and the risk involved seem too overwhelming. I was previously convinced that she was the ideal partner for me. I had assumed that my previous relationship had ended in failure, but it may be that I had merely replaced one unsatisfactory situation with another. One is unpleasant, the other is destructive. It is possible that the previous relationship would have ended in a worse manner, but this is speculation. This leads me to question my own judgment. How can I be absolutely certain about anything when the thing I was ridiculously, beyond a doubt sure about turned out to be a lie? My mother asked me if I could imagine myself getting married again, moving forward with my life. However, she realized it was too early to bring up such a question. I was prompted to consider this question, and I wish to clarify that I do not believe it was appropriate to do so at this juncture. I am not yet prepared to contemplate the prospect of remarriage. If I were to respond at this moment, I would have to say that I am not inclined to marry again. How would I explain this to my acquaintances? I would have to admit that the experience has been traumatic. The situation has been ongoing for 277 days. The 27-year-old male and the 28-year-old female were married. The female was unfaithful to her husband with a male colleague, engaging in sexual intercourse on more than 20 occasions within a single week. The male experiences intense feelings of hatred and resentment towards the female. These feelings manifest as fantasies of revenge and torture. I have committed actions that I am aware would be considered inappropriate by the community if I were to share them. This weekend, I attended a wedding and found myself filled with intense hatred towards the individual in question. I was consumed by feelings of resentment and isolation, as though I were a hollow shell of a person, while the newlyweds basked in their joy. The individual in question is currently engaged in a quest for vengeance which would have a profoundly negative impact on my life. However, despite this, I am unable to justify the pursuit of such a course of action, as it would be tantamount to self-destruction. I find myself in a state of limbo, unable to take any action without risking the destruction of my own life and reputation. Alternatively, if I were to remain passive, I would be consumed by a relentless cycle of obsessive thoughts and self-recrimination. It has been observed that men tend to focus more on the affair partner AP, whereas women tend to focus more on the wayward spouse. This individual was situated at the center of my life, and the mental images of him persistently occupy my thoughts. It is evident that those who engage in infidelity are driven by a desire for secrecy and concealment. The affair partner was, in fact, a mutual friend whom I had trusted. They were aware of the circumstances surrounding our marriage. It is important to note that at the time of the affair, we were already married. Furthermore, we did not have any children together. I have already undergone testing for sexually transmitted diseases, STDs, and the results were negative. The individual who engaged in the affair did not express any remorse, and instead, they blamed me for the infidelity. Currently, I am in therapy to help me cope with this situation. Since the dissolution of the marriage, I have had no contact with my former spouse or the other woman involved. I am not seeking advice on how I should feel or who to be angry with. I am here for support, not guidance. I wish to make it clear that I am not normally this angry, however, being at a wedding triggered these emotions. I had a therapy session. Today, I had a therapy session which proved to be extremely beneficial. My therapist guided me through the destructive nature of seeking revenge. I expressed how powerless I felt by doing nothing, and he compared my situation to Batman. He explained that one of the reasons Batman is seen as a hero is because of what he chooses not to do, how he refrains from seeking destruction. He emphasized that my choice to do nothing was a display of strength, rather than weakness. It was an empowering decision. He also pointed out that I redirected my negative feelings from the AP towards respecting myself, while still acknowledging the AP's despicable actions and the depths they have sunk to.